What's up, everybody? This is Erica from the Classy Climb blog coming to you guys today on our show, Top 3 Reasons You Need to Improve Your Credit Score. Today, I have our lovely co-host. It's going to be Mr. Lawrence Martin out of Orlando, Florida. He is with Legacy Credit Firm. How are you doing today, Lawrence?
I'm doing great, Erica. How about yourself? Thanks for having me on.
So what got you started in credit repair?
Wow. Well, it's personal experience. I went through a situation where I was $60,000 in debt, and I started taking these financial literacy courses. And my wife and I, we managed to get out of debt within 4 years. We paid off $60,000. Some of it was active debt, some of it was in collections. But after I paid off the debt and learned more about financial literacy, I noticed the consumer rights side of it, where things happen in life beyond your control. Maybe medical debt, maybe you lose your job. So what do you do in situations where debt is piling up and your credit score, your credit report is getting hit, right? So I began to do a little bit more research on consumer rights, the FCRA, the FDCPA. Of course, I've dealt with debt collectors calling my home, harassing about debt. Actually, now this was the straw that broke the camel's back when my wife and I had a judgment on our report. Okay, not knowing we actually paid the judgment because we were being harassed by this law office, and a couple of years later, we're trying to apply for a home. The judgment is still on our report, and it hit me like, wow, we paid this judgment and it's still on my report, affecting my credit score. And that's when I realized there's a distinct difference between what's on your report, how it's being reported as it relates to your collections. Those are two totally different things. And what ends up happening, a lot of people begin to miss out on opportunities like we were trying to apply for another home, and the underwriting said, well, you got to get this judgment off or we're not going to approve this loan. And I had a 700 credit score at the time. So then that's when I really began to get into credit repair and do research on, what it takes to get the actual credit reports cleaned up legally.
That's awesome. I mean, $60,000 in 3 years. Did y'all go on Dave Ramsey and do the scream?
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, well, I'll be in. Yes, that's my son. He's like, I'm hungry. He don't care. Yeah.
No problem with that. So I said, you guys paid off $60,000. Did you go do the Dave Ramsey scream?
Yes. You know what? We paid off the debt. We did the Dave Ramsey thing, which was good, which was cool. When it comes to budgeting and when it comes to watching every dollar, as he says, I think that is powerful, but the other aspect of that is, what about your consumer rights that can protect you and maybe get things done a lot faster? One of the things that I say with the Dave Ramsey camp, they really don't care too much about credit as it relates to, building credit and using other people's money to build wealth. But the reality is, like some of the subjects that we're talking about today, I tell people, look, there are other areas in your life that you need credit, and it has nothing to do with you borrowing money or using it for consumer debt. So.
For sure. And I've been big on start with Dave Ramsey and then switch to Robert Kiyosaki, right? Because a lot of people, what's funny is where I'm from in the Carolinas, I had friends where they got married right out of college, and she's a teacher, he's a teacher, or he's a National Guard person. So they're not making a ton of income, but they got a house for $55,000 and 2 cars. They paid those things off in 4 years.
Right.
So now you're free at 27 to do whatever. And that's why I love Dave Ramsey, what he starts with, because a lot of people do need that discipline, like to have a hard time for a little bit and then expand. And so I'm always a proponent for him. Like, I know people get crazy when I recommend him, but there's people who are making 100,000 a year and in debt to their eyeballs. Right. So it's like, you can't move, you can't do anything.
Exactly. And most people are either or. They try to, put them against each other. But I'm all about principle. If the principle works here, it doesn't matter who's, actually teaching it. It's still a principle that can be applied and used. So I'm actually right there with you with switching over from Dave Ramsey to Robert Kiyosaki, especially as entrepreneurs.
yeah, that's my whole point. I tell people, I'm like, all right, you clean the credit up, you're debt free. You can do a lot of things in one or 2 years with your income, and even like starting a business. Like I have several friends who they lost their job in the 2008 recession, but guess what? Husband went out, lawn care business, or a side service business, and we're able to just leaps and bounds, grow leaps and bounds. So I was going to give people the 3 reasons why in this video we're talking about credit repair. So one of the number 1 reasons, and I see we have about 20 people in watching us right now. So if you guys have any questions, maybe you're on your lunch break, I get it, but just put them in the comments. I'm looking below on my phone for the questions. So first one, getting a job. So off top, 49 million people in America right now have credit scores under 599. Wow. Now that's not horrendous. It's not a 400, but it's pretty bad. And so the key in there is when you apply for jobs nowadays, it is totally legal for your prospective employer to run your credit score. A soft run, not necessarily a hard one, but that's a part of the background check process.
Right.
And personally, from our family's experience, my mom did 26 years military. I tell you guys that all the time on the show.
Wow.
Investigated fraud her last 3 years while she was in the military, her MOS. And so many people lost clearances, had to move jobs, had to be shifted to something else in the Army because they had terrible credit, they had bankruptcies. Most military towns know if you tear up your apartment or you skip on a bill, they'll call your commanding officer. They'll call, your unit, and they know they'll get a hold of somebody who will get a hold of you. Wow. So every job is not as strenuous like that in the military, but trust me, if you're in insurance, if you're in banking, if you're going to be touching someone's money, especially if it's a smaller office, there's a lot of small business owners who have like less than 100 employees. You don't think they're running your credit as they bring you onto a small operation? Yes. You're kidding yourself.
Absolutely. And one of the things about going back to what you were saying about the security clearance thing, the main points of what people they're looking for is credibility. How do you handle credit? Have you been honest? And those are the main points. But a lot of people, they don't understand that. Okay, if you miss out on an opportunity for a job, a high-paying job, especially in corporate America, that's going to pay you $20,000 to $30,000 more than what you're making now, and you don't get that job, then you just count, add or multiply that by 10. That's what 10 by $20,000. That's $200,000 that you could have used within that time frame. So getting these high-paying jobs and making sure that your credit report is, number 1, accurate, and number 2, your credit report doesn't have derogatory items on them that will send a red flag to these employers or the prospective employers, then that is going to be the main thing that you need to actually watch out for and look out for if you're applying for these jobs. Okay, because they put these on the application for that reason.
Exactly. There's a lot of people right now, and I love the by 10 method. So there's a book called The 10-Year Turnaround. And I have a lot of friends who work in HR now at HEB, Lowe's. I used to work many years at Lowe's. And they will see people's resumes. They've been somewhere 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, 8 years. And they'll always ask them, well, why were you there so long if you didn't like it? What was going on with your pay, your income, all these things? And it'll just show you that people get stuck in situations. The biggest point I bring that up for is if you do times 10, anything, you're making $20,000 a year and you're like, man, my life sucks. Do it times 10. You only make $200,000 in 10 years. Do $50,000 times 10. I have friends who are engineers and, they have homes and cars and people are like, well, how are they doing so well? I'm like, if you're making 80 to 100,000 a year and in 10 years, you can't kind of fix yourself so that you can own a home and own a car, then you have some deeper issues there. Yes. Income is always important. Moving the income up is always important. What makes me very sad is the average fast food worker in America is 36 years old. Wow. So that means there's a lot of small towns where there's 40-year-old women working there. And a job is a job is an honorable thing. But at the end of the day, what's holding you there? Is it your credit score? Is it your saving techniques? I mean, there's many different reasons. So that's the importance of the whole job factor. Number 2 is missed opportunities in starting a business. If people have seen me on this channel talk a lot about being from a military town, having friends at Korean moms, like a little flea market business on the weekends. Little did I know, when by the time I start kind of showing my entrepreneurship, and like my first job was with my cousin's dollar store that was not like the franchise dollar store, like straight up he made a dollar store in Fayetteville. They started showing me things and teaching me things, and like, hey, this is how this works. And I've had several Korean friends, moms, who had $100,000 American Express cards, and everybody's making fun of her flea market business that she's had since the kids have been in high school, and she does on the weekends, and the dad acts like it's not important.
Right.
But they're sitting there with $100,000 American Express cards, multiple ones.
Wow.
And being able to put their children on as authorized users, not giving them a card, of course. My friend, when she went to go get approved for her house, they were like, who in the heck put you down as authorized user?
Exactly.
But,
hey, in this society of capitalism, and I'm going to give you an example of what we mean by, starting off, getting the startup, or, getting startup capital to get the ball rolling. Just recently, I went to Sam's, right? And I bought my daughter like maybe 3 boxes of candy. And she's doing really well with that, just trying to teach her the principles of entrepreneurship and selling and all these things, and just getting out there and just experiencing what it's like to be an entrepreneur, how to make her own money without asking anybody for anything. So, I'm doing this project, and it hit me. She couldn't get started without the initial investment.
That's right.
And look at the opportunities that we do have in this country. But if you don't actually have the initial investment to get started, whether it be your own credit accounts, whether it be you borrowing money from your family, or going to a bank, you're still going to need some type of startup somewhere, right? If you don't have any money, or you're going to borrow money from yourself. But the bottom line is, you need startup capital to actually get the ball rolling. So going back to what we're talking about, credit is a great way to actually get into the game. And once you get into the game, all the other opportunities will open up,
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, a lot of things are time versus money kind of conversations. So a lot of people say, well, Erica, I'll just work my way and save this money for this. Yes. I go, in that same 3 to 6 months that you're doing that, we could have your credit cleaned up and you could already be rolling.
Wow.
Right. So I have clients who have $90,000 in approvals, and they've only been working with me 3 months. Right. So it's a lot of it is, how are you going about this goal? Right.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with saving cash up and not using credit cards. But the key is you want to be efficient, because what if your job lays you off tomorrow? And as you look around in the news lately, you have a lot of retail stores closing. Yes. Now, a lot of those people, they're probably not ready to start a business, but I would at least want them to have cleaned up credit before the emergency starts, right? Or go to the community college to get some kind of a leg up there.
Yes, yes.
But it's very important. Startup capital is important.
I wanted to piggyback on what you were talking about, the time versus the money thing, just to kind of, just in a principle way. All right. Most of the time we're going to on the consumer side, we're going to go and get that 30-year mortgage. It makes more sense to get that 30-year mortgage for that $300,000 house, because it's going to take, how long would it take you to actually save up $300,000 cash to actually pay off for a 30-year mortgage, right? How long would it actually take you? It'll probably take you 30 years. Plus you got to worry about, you're already renting somewhere. So you're not going to, but you pretty much kill 2 birds with 1 stone when you say, I'm going to get this mortgage, buy this house now that's going to improve in equity while I'm paying it off. Okay. So the time thing is something that a lot of people don't talk about. They don't consider that, well, you're losing time and you're losing money by not taking advantage of the credit that you could actually use today and get it going, so that you don't have to worry about trying to, bootstrap it and save up the money yourself. And it's going to take you forever to do that. So that's a good point, what you were talking about. I mean, I think we need to extend that conversation, because a lot of people don't understand that when we're talking about using other people's money to build wealth, that's another contingency that a lot of people don't understand. So,
well, we'll definitely do a part 2 video sometime next week or in the future, and we'll talk just about real estate and why, because I've actually had several clients who, they got the second house and then they were stuck, right? Or they want to get second, third, fourth houses because they make great income. And those are, we could go in a rabbit hole conversation there. So I'm gonna kind of like hold back what I want to say, but it's very important that many people are living in areas such as Tampa. One of the ladies I interviewed before, nurse buys houses, is like her.com or whatever. She's a single mom nurse. Just got engaged, so I'm gonna fix that. But she's a single mom nurse, and she's on her 5th rental property.
Wow.
Plus her own home, because it just takes a little bit of money getting those down payments. And so I think a lot of people get trapped in that whole creative financing, no money down, no credit, and they're limiting themselves. I meet several Black and Latino people who I think are some of the brightest, real estate minds I know, and they're so tied to creative financing.
Yes.
If they would just get $100,000 in some credit,
yes,
they would just be through the roof.
Yes, exactly. Because it opened up opportunity.
So I'm gonna read some of these comments to you, okay? So we got Alan Hollander III. He's talking about you can save so much money and make money with strong credit. Credit is the new money. Max Bugatti, hi, how you doing, Max? A secured credit card is the key to credit improvement. True, it can be the key to credit improvement, but if you have negative collections hitting your account every single month, like you're gonna need more. You're gonna need more than just secure credit cards. So
exactly, that's so true.
Let's see. Alan Hollander said the middle class and poor use money as currency, but the rich use credit as currency and money as velocity. Yes. Let's see here. Jeff Daniel says, I want you to go deeper into credit. I have a 720 based on Credit Karma, and it's just, the age is just over a year. The highest limit I have is 500, and I have an authorized Amex on 6,000. Jeff Daniel, what's my next move?
Woo, well, I would say this, his next move is to check his FICO score, because the Karma score is not what 90% of lenders are going to use. Now, here's the catch to that. Depending on what he's going to use that credit for. If he's going to go to the bank and get a mortgage or auto loan, because even with the FICO score, there are different FICO scores that are specific to what you're going to actually get money for. Like, for example, if you're going to get a mortgage, there are FICO scores set up just for the mortgages, all right? So the first thing he needs to do is go ahead and check his FICO score, go to myfico.com and check his FICO score and see exactly what his score is. And then he needs to see what he needs to use his credit for and go from there. Because if he has a 720 Credit Karma, that's a totally different scoring model than MyFICO or the FICO scoring model.
Yeah. So my experience with Credit Karma with my customers, that Credit Karma has been anywhere from 20 to 50 points off at all times. But if you're already in 720 in Credit Karma, you may be in the 720s anyway.
Right.
It may not be that off. The key always is, what is your next move, right? What do you want to do, Jeff Daniel? I'm reading your comment here, but you got to give me some kind of context. And that's why I usually do consulting and let people just buy a consult and talk to me, because that way I kind of can go, oh, you want to do this. Oh, you want to buy a duplex. Oh, you want to buy a multifamily. Then we have a concept of what's the strategy for you to get there, right? So unless, because if you have a thin file, if you just got 2 things on there, just 2 credit cards and nothing else reporting, then, a banker might be like, well, why am I going to give this guy a $24,000 credit card? You know what I mean? He's only got a $6,000. You know what I mean? So
so it's kind of like, where do you want to go? I could give you directions once you tell me what location you're trying to hit.
Okay. So I wrote down some more, and Jeff said cleaning business. So Jeff, again, speak with your wife, because I see your comment on there. Speak with your wife, see if you guys want to do a consult or whatnot. But basically, what is the capital you need to get the kid cleaning business moving? Do you need 3 months worth of capital? Do you need to buy flyers and signs? I have a painting company. I don't paint. I have guys that work for me. But the quickest and fastest way is online leads, and 2, those signs. When we go to a house and we paint, we put the sign out front. And for some reason, when neighbors see, what is my neighbor doing? Oh, I want to do that. So if you have a cleaning business, maybe it's cleaning carpets, cleaning I don't know what.
Right.
And you have that van parked out front or that sign out in the yard for a while or a few hours in the daytime, the Joneses are like, well, we need to clean our house too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's a very powerful thing when it comes to service businesses. I love service businesses. It's one of those things that can go $5,000 to $15,000 in a month like that. So I'm going to go back. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip everybody. I'm going back through. We got Brian Knight. I went from $35,000 a year to $125,000 a year in 2 years, but still had bad credit from back in the day. started working on it, brought it up from a 490 to a 670 in 8 months, and still working to get a 720.
Wow.
Talk about how most people don't know you have about 10 different credit scores and not just your score 8 from each CRA.
Yes.
Good personal credit can vastly accelerate building a business credit as well. Yes, Brian Knight, 100% on everything you just said.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to make a couple of points about what he's saying, but he says something about him hitting that 670 mark, and the reality that is nationwide, that is the average. That's the average score, but it's something about that mark that gets people into subprime rates, and they're paying some of the. It's almost like they're just good enough to get loans, but they're paying some of the highest rates, and it's something about. If they don't have enough, like you were saying, they don't have enough credit cards on their FICO profile, then they won't get up to the 720s, right? So I just wanted to just make a comment on that 670 mark being something that a lot of people, they get to, they work hard, and then to push them over to that 700, there's something that they need to actually be doing if they don't have enough credit on their credit reports. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of payment history as well.
Very, very true. And sometimes it's a combination of time. That's why when people ask me, okay, tell me about my credit thing, and I'm like, I have to see your report to actually give you something valid. I know you probably tell people that, like, let me see the report, pull your own report, know what's on there, so you can argue with people. I remember going to a car dealership, and they were like, man, you were arguing with us. And I'm like, you know what? Look across the way. There was an Indian man. He'd been arguing with them for 4 days. So I'm like, don't give me crap because I'm a woman. I know my score and I know what I can get.
Know what you can get. Exactly.
Let's try it again.
That is highly important. Yes.
Yeah. Don't let anybody roll you with the okie doke. Okay.
For real.
So, but yeah, it just saves a ton of money and interest because a lot of things what people don't understand is they're not taking the side money or any extra income they make and invest in different things as far as insurance, as far as bank certificates. And so when a bank goes, yeah, they make 80,000 a year and they got 670 or they got 125,000, this guy Brian Knight has. The first thing they're thinking is, but they have no other investments.
Right.
They have no other assets. So it's almost, you're still as dangerous. And so that's why on the channel, I talk a lot about building a table. You guys can go on the blog, Classy Climb blog. And there's a picture I have of a table I drew on the board. And it has several different things in it, silver, gold, precious metals, land, trees, timber, lending club notes. There's a reason if you look at your taxes every year, you file them, they have all these different things that qualify as income. There's a reason, there's multiple ways for you to get income in,
right,
and to account for the income. And so when you go to the bank and someone sees, I remember, this is kind of silly, but I had took $1,000 tax refund and put it on 40 notes on Lending Club. I took another $1,000 and divided in bank certificates for $20 increments. So just a ton of them, right? So the bank guy, once he has all these sheets in front of him, he's like, man, girl, you're really working, investing. It was only 1,000 in notes and 1,000 in bank certificates, but it was showing the track record of this person's investing.
Right.
This person's spending money in the bank, they're spending money in notes. And so I was able to get approved for a really high personal loan.
Right.
And it comes from showing that you're just not someone with a bunch of capital needing it to go somewhere. So, okay. So Alvin says, what do you guys think about piggybacking or becoming an authorized user to well-established credit lines to strengthen credit? I have an idea, but I'll let you go first.
Okay. Yeah. Piggybacking is another way to if you have no credit. Okay. And you could actually go in, and whoever is going to give you an authorized user account, you could actually piggyback on them, and they don't even have to give you a card or anything. You could just get on their actual credit report, and it'll post. Now, here's the do's and don'ts with piggybacking. If you're going to piggyback, you have to make sure that person's utilization stays under, I would say, 20%, number one. Number two, you want to make sure that they continue to make on-time payments. Otherwise, it will be counterproductive. So you can't just say, well, I want to piggyback on this person's credit line and they're missing payments and they're maxing out their credit cards. Then it will not work. It'll actually go against you. Another key is make sure that they have high limits, because if they don't have high limits, pretty much anything they spend is going to count towards a utilization. So high limits are, I would say three things about that. High limits, making sure they make on-time payments, and also keep the utilization low. Then piggybacking should be fine after those 3 points.
Is it time to eat yet?
One second.
So I have noticed lately that the authorized user works. It does work because it works, but here's the kicker. What works greater? Personal credit.
Yes.
Now, what I'll tell people is there are trade lines you can get.
Correct.
From very reputable sources that get you $5,000 or $1,500 a year, but they're like a Finger Hut or a Victoria's Secret card, but they still show this great, credit limit.
Right.
And a lot of people say, well, how are these immigrants coming here and getting these big lines of credit? Well, they're coming with no credit. And some people are that. My uncle, he didn't buy anything for 2 years with credit, so he didn't have a credit score. But what happens is they just pick 3 or 4, 3 to 6 really. And he got a Lowe's card, he got a Home Depot card, I think he got a Gander Mountain or something like that card. And so it was a process of having different lines. Now, yes, his wife who, had a credit card could put him on as authorized user, but the bank is still going to say, where's his primary account? Because at any point in time, you could go in any bank and go, hey, I want to drop this $5,000 in a secure loan and pay on it. Well, now all of a sudden, I don't know what it is about that $5,000 number, but it does something in the bank. Like, it's just like, ooh, $5,000, he has cash. Let's give him some unsecured at some point there. And as prime example, deposits. Bank of America, where I lived at when I went to college, East Carolina University in Greenville, they'd have Hispanics lined up on Fridays with their boss there helping them make deposits. And a lot of the guys would get the deposit the check, get the cash, and leave the bank.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the Bank of America was like, what's your address? Because we're going to send you a credit card. Because they knew a lot of those Hispanic guys were getting checks every single Friday. And so deposits are very important.
Right.
And even when I talk to my clients about business, like say they have a business account and they don't really have it doing much with it, I go, if you can, send $20 or $30 there every day, right? And you can do that with bank transfers. You can do that however you want. Stop at the ATM. But what happens is that bank goes, there is money coming into this account. Like, this is a serious account. So that's just my 2 cents on there. I agree about the piggybacking and keeping the utility down. Yes. Because if you get on grandma's card and grandma's going on Shopping Network every month.
Yes, it's not going to work.
That's not a win.
It won't work.
So there's some more on here. Let's see. Okay. Yes, Brian Knight. Yes. Okay. Brian Knight. Think Credit Karma uses Vantage scoring model, not FICO scoring model. That could be possible.
Yes.
Selena Carrero. I'm sorry, I'm saying your name wrong. Erica Williams. Why did you choose a painting business? I think so. The reason I chose painting is I was in apartment industry and I was starting to get frustrated because I could only get to a certain level of management. I was a billing manager, which is like an assistant manager in some smaller buildings, but a billing manager now has their own title in a lot of bigger units. So I'm handling all the bills, I'm handling all the payments, and I look up and I see a kid who's 32 years old, a little bit older than me, and he has made $500,000 that year from painting receipts from just our one apartment complex, just our one, not another 2, 3, 4, $500,000 from our one contract, our apartment complex. We had over 600 units here in North Austin.
Yes.
And instead of the company's long-term thinking is it's cheaper to outsource painting than to hire a guy, be full-time, and really his job is kind of cleaning up around the property and making it look nice. That's just an extra body. And companies are so hardwired on saving money that they all of a sudden looked up and said, oh my God, we just spent $500,000 on painting. That's stupid. We could have hired a guy for $50,000 and have him be our full-time painter, right?
Right, exactly.
It's just, everybody thinks outsourcing and automation all the time.
Right.
So when I saw that number, I was like, whoo, that's my out, right? Like, and another side part of it, not disrespecting anybody who's a blue collar guy, a lot of blue collar guys, unless they have a wife who's keeping track of the paperwork, the taxes, getting stuff done, like following up with customers, getting the payments. A lot of blue collar guys do a lot of work and then they get paid and they go chill out for a little bit.
Right.
Enough to relax, enough to work, pay rent, enough. And that's not a knock on them. They want to live a good life too, because plumbing and electricians, and that's hard work, you know? it's definitely a skill. And so I noticed that with painting. I noticed a lot of guys were like, woo, I painted, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done, but they weren't consistent. So they'd be so hungry for money, they'd come work for other people because they couldn't be consistent.
Wow.
Or they couldn't keep their taxes paid well. And so I'd be like, hey, look, I've got a great lead system here. I've got a guy, my first number one partner, who he makes all the phone calls all day that the leads we get. And me and him go put out signs, mostly him though lately. And so we have consistent business. We just need you to be consistent and show up to the appointment. So that's why I chose painting. I mean, you could do the same thing with construction and real estate and roofing. And honestly, there's always very young guys who are willing to go knock doors in the summer if you're near a college town for pay, and they'll take notes and they'll run away from dogs and they'll go knock doors and they'll get told no as long as they get a good pay at the end of the week. So there's a lot of opportunity there in service business. All right, we have Brian Garrett. I have a 680 credit score. My wife has a 700, and we make 150,000 combined. Would it make good financial sense for us to come together to obtain a larger amount of PG per business credit, or remain separate to lower risk? I'm gonna let you answer that, and I have a opinion on it. So go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Well, the first question I would ask, what do they want to do? Because risking for what? So, but just to try to, kind of give some insight on it, I think they should move into adding business credit, and they don't necessarily have to combine together. There are ways that they could actually do it, because the business credit that they actually want to apply for will have nothing to do with their personal credit. Okay. So I would say they should use that money to actually build a business credit the right way. And if they don't know how to do that, they can get in contact with yourself and, get the consultation they need. But on the personal credit side, if they're going to they already have a mortgage, then it wouldn't make sense for them to even use personal credit on that aspect, just for the sake of, having a high score. So, because a lot of people, they want the high.
Sorry. I was going to say he adds another point. He says, buy and hold real estate. I think that's what they're trying to do with it.
Okay. Well, I would say they could use both on that aspect, because you want to get money that moves quickly. You want to get money that you can actually access quickly as possible when you're talking about real estate buy and hold. So the best way to do that would be, your personal credit lines, and eventually move into your business credit lines where you could have higher rates. But right now, especially when you're talking about these type of properties, looking at the rate of return on whether or not it's going to make sense for you to use maybe a high limit credit card to do that. So that's just two.
So I'm gonna answer it twofold. I agree with you. You're on point. What's your focus? Well, always, what is the goal? Every time people ask me, I'm like, why?
Yes.
What are you trying to do? So a lot of my clients do come in, and he says to buy more than 4 units. So a lot of my clients work with turnkey companies. Okay. And the reason I'm such a big proponent for turnkey companies, everybody's not a fan of it, but what happens is they have become so big in their town usually that banks work with them. And so one of the guys I'm always recommending to my clients, he's in Maryland, and 2 bankers in the town work with him. And they're like, hey, you send your investors over here, because they know what they're looking for.
Yes.
I can approve up to $500,000. Well, this guy over here says, well, we can approve up to $1.5 million. And the reason that's important is a lot of my clients will say, well, Erica, why are we getting, why do we have 4 banks we're signing up for, and we're getting 4 different banks funding us? I said, because if you start buying real estate with, let's name a bank I hate, Bank of America, and all of a sudden Bank of America's like, we're not approving you for any more mortgages. Sorry, you're unapproved, debt to income ratio, all this other stuff. But you go across the street to the credit union, and they're going, with your credit score and your down payment, we will approve you.
Yes.
You're opening up the opportunity to have more than one bank approve you, and actually using more than one pocket of money. So example, one of my clients, he's getting, 20 grand on the personal side, 20 grand on the business side. And that's happened over and over at 4 different banks. Yeah. Well, now he's got 2 different pots of money to use. And there's over 6 different ways to get money off credit cards. So to each his own on risk level. I always tell you guys, CYA, consult your attorney, CYA, consult your accountant, whatever. But the key in that is having a neat goal. Like, okay, we're going for 4 units over here, or we have a turnkey company that's only finding us multifamily properties, boom, over here, or we only need to use 20 grand to get that single family in Plano or something, right? And so the key is always, you can get, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and go, you can get $1 million tomorrow, but there are steps and ways to get high amounts of credit and business funding that you can actually access to do so. There's even a bank in Florida I'm working with. They fund you to buy tax liens. Wow. You know what I mean? And then there's another bank in Florida. If it says if you get more than 50% of your income from rental properties, you get an investor mortgage. Now imagine you retired, right? We're going to go quotations retired, and you've got a rental property bringing you $3,000 in. Maybe it's a 6 unit or something. And you go, hey, that's more than 50% of my income. You know, I got a retirement thing, but that's 50% of my income. Now that bank is just approving you based off that title.
Yes.
That this is more than 50% of your income. You know, many banks are doing second home mortgages because why? Most people go get a beach house or they go get a lake house.
Yeah.
Make your second home purchase be something that's paying you is how I look at it. Especially if you're in the Southeast, you're in the Georgia, the upper Florida, Tampa, you're in Charleston area, so Somerville, North Carolina. You know, I have friends who are getting $55,000 houses and their mortgage is $200. You know what I mean? So now they rent the house out for $800.
Yeah.
$800 to $900 with a few little cleanup in the kitchen, and they're living life. So
wow, that's good. Yep.
So, but that was our third point of the group was saving money on interest, because I'm seeing a lot of people come to me, or I see them online in certain groups that we're both in, where they got 17% on a credit card or 17% interest on a car. And I'm like, a little bit like, no, baby, you don't need that charger. Don't do it, you know, because it's such a sad situation that people are buying vehicles because they need the vehicle.
Right.
Position, but they're not, the credit score they have is just killing them in interest. I think Dr. Boyce posted an article about this woman saying Uber had her bankrupt her, when really the young lady was making what, $300 a week. Then she got pregnant. I'm like, you can't even take care of yourself, baby. $300 a week, you only make 20 grand a year. And so she signed up for Uber and leased the car. And that, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but you got to realize some of these Uber guys are driving day and night.
Yes.
Driving so many long hours. They're making $4,000, $5,000 a month because they're driving all the time. And you got the car while you were pregnant and already not making money, right? So, I mean, just the article itself wore me out for like lack of thinking, lack of long-term thinking, exactly. But
you know, I'm going to talk about, you know, on this third point, talking about having a game plan, because I think if there's a takeaway, it would be why you want to do what you want to do. What's the purpose of good credit? And then the next phase is, how can I use this credit to get what I need? Because the credit or the credit score itself is not that important to what you want to get out of that credit. So having a game plan with good credit, number one, if you're going to buy a car, or a house, it puts you in a place of negotiation. And a lot of people, a lot of consumers really don't, because if you're used to having a bad credit score most of your life, and then all of a sudden you get a good credit score, you're going to pretty much take whatever somebody gives you. But I've used my credit score to leverage for lower interest rates on a house, lower interest rates on my cars. And when I look at the finance statement, I'm like, man, I've saved over $60,000 just in a home loan. Right? When I compare interest rates over the lifetime of that loan, I've saved over $60,000 just dropping it that interest rate 1 point on a home loan. And then if you move into car financing, if your auto score, your FICO score is 700, they may even give you the car 60 months, 0% interest. Okay, and that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal, because I have clients that are driving around in a Camry, paying $500 a month, and the car is like 3 or 4 years old. So, I mean, it's huge as it relates to the whole financial picture and the long-term game plan. Okay.
Oh, 100%. Like, I wrote an article talking on my blog about the average car payment in America right now is like $530.
Yes.
$530. And you'll meet people who have, I remember our neighbors, they're military, husband's making maybe 50,000 a year. And he bought a $70,000 Ford, like this monster truck. I don't know what it's called, but it's not crazy big, but it's big enough that it's bigger than the other Fords. Wow. And it's like called a Raptor. That's what it is, Raptor. And his wife is like, we have a $1,500 house we're renting. We have 3 kids, and you went and got a $70,000 truck. And sometimes people keep hearing, I can afford the payments. No, you cannot. You cannot afford the payments. And that's really true. I'm meeting a lot of people who are spending $500 in a rental car, in a car, and then they're renting a place for $1,200. When similarly around them, if they owned it, they'd be paying maybe $600 in mortgage. Right. And so a lot of those things are so frustrating when you hear them, because you're like, baby, if you just stop for a minute and think out the next 5 years, you could save yourself some money. Period.
Exactly. I'm going to interject something, because you just talked about how one of your clients were paying like $200 a month for a mortgage, right? Now just think about, let's just tie that together with you saving, even if you're going to go the route of financing a car. What if you had a good credit score? You got an interest rate that was low enough for you, even though you can make a $500 payment. Let's just say if you took $250 and you made a payment on that car note, and you put the other $250 into a home that was cash flowing, what, $600. So now that home is paying for your car note, and it's paying off the mortgage on that home as well. So the point I'm making is opportunity costs we don't consider. And the main thing about it is we have to understand the long-term game plan and the opportunities that we forfeit when we don't calculate how much it's going to cost me, not only just on paper, not only just on a monthly basis, but long term. That's the reason why Warren Buffett is where he is. He thinks long term. He thinks about, where will I be 30 years from now? Most people don't think about that.
Oh yeah, everybody's on this, I'm gonna flip it, I'm gonna flip this money and flip it. You can't stop. When they ask Warren Buffett, when are you gonna sell these companies? He's like, I buy them forever. Exactly. When I talk to people who own rental properties, I know this guy, him and his wife owned 30 properties in Charlotte when it fell out.
Right.
In 2008. And they went and bought 5 more. And when you talk to them, life had not changed for them.
Wow.
Like they were still straight. Like life was just like everybody else is falling under because they're over leveraged and all this stuff. He's like, I bought in for the long term.
Yes.
You know what I mean? With good credit. And so I'm going to go on. There's a bunch more comments, so I'm going to answer them. Alvin said, do turnkeys produce equity at purchase? I know they can be good for income, but poor management can hurt the investor, as well as equity gets eaten by facilitating company. Well, Alvin, here's this thing, because I actually work with several great turnkey companies. The key is any great turnkey company is going to not only say, we can manage you, but we'll redirect you to 3 other companies in the area.
Yes.
Anyone worth their salt, okay? Because the guys I work with, they'll have clients with 10 and 12 properties with them. And you don't keep coming back to work with somebody unless they're doing good quality service. Right. So a lot of properties, the one I'm always talking about, Billwood properties in Hagerstown, Maryland, they don't close the loan unless each unit is rented out.
Wow.
Like they want you to start off on a positive, because people don't realize when it comes to mortgages, we'll talk about that in the next time we talk.
Okay.
Deposits and stuff count towards you when you do your mortgage. So people don't realize that, but
yeah, that's
credit counsel. We'll do another conversation on that.
Wow.
Okay, Alvin, what do you got? Brian Garrett says, makes sense. Thank you, Brian. Alvin says, what do you guys think about HELOCs or bank lines of credit, not credit cards? I'm leaning more towards establishing revolving lines more than fixed install lines. Okay, so Alvin, that's what I do. I don't know if I said it clearly, but when I have a client, if we go to 4 different banks, I want them to have a personal account and a business account. On their business account, we're applying for not only credit cards, we're applying for business lines of credit. And then on this side, we're going for a personal loan and personal credit cards. Now, why do I do that? Because sometimes you might need working capital. Sometimes emergencies may happen. Sometimes the other banks may not approve them. They might just go, you're too new, your company just got started, we're not approving you. So I want my clients to have more than one option. And if I feel, and I've talked to them and they're responsible adults, they're not going to get these credit cards and go, woo, they're not going to go crazy. They're going to use them to purchase cash flowing assets. So awesome. And the thing is, 90 days later, you can go, if you're responsible, you can go back to every single one of these banks and ask for an increase on the personal side and the personal in the business side. And in the next 90 days, apply for more credit. It's up to you as long as you keep your stuff clean. Okay. Alvin says, leasing a car may be better cash flow wise. Save or invest the difference. Maybe only one vehicle needs to be full purchase as a long-term reserve vehicle. Every other vehicle is for utility.
I don't know about that. You know, I don't know if leasing makes more sense cash flow wise. Most of the time, you're going to have to pay down payment on a lease, and they're going to check your credit as well. So there's a lot of variables to that answer, but it may make sense depending on what you're doing with that car. If you're making money with that car, it depends. It totally depends. But leasing can be a really bad idea if you're just looking at the monthly payment. Okay.
My friend calls leasing fleecing, and he is actually a Hertz car salesman, and he actually has a fleet of cars he does on Uber. And I'm gonna give two stories here. People, if they watch this channel, they know. There's one of my clients. He's Vietnamese. He's here for college, a UT student. He went to the auction, bought not one, not two, but three, because you know they're not allowed to have jobs while they're here on certain type of visas. Fits. Now, if you don't know anything about Honda Fits, they're a very popular car. You know, brace your kids like them or whatever. But he basically got very bare minimum repairs done to them. Turn around and rent them out on an app called Torino.com.
Yes.
But you have to own your car. You can't be leasing a car. You have to own your car. Same thing with Uber and Lyft. You know, people are getting into these leases because they don't own a car. And to me, the long-term smarter strategy is, even though my friend works at Hertz Car Sales, I'm not promoting them, they're not paying me. They have out there, they're selling for former rental cars for $7,500. Now you can get a car $7,500 with your credit card if you want to do that craziness, but your payment is going to be maybe $188, $244. You know, it depends on how many months you want to do it. Now a $7,000 car, y'all could do 24 months and be done and be cleared. Now, when it comes to leasing, what I'm kind of seeing in leasing is BMW leasing, Audi leasing, you know, big truck leasing. But there's a lot of fees on the back end of that leasing. If you go over your miles, if your situation changes. I just have a friend who had just a terrible experience with leasing, and she ended up, you know, she just had to go drive to Dallas or something for a while for work, and she just went over her miles. A lot of things in the contract she didn't read well. And I just think in the long term, she could have just bought a car. Right. A basic car and saved a lot of money. The second side of that thing I was saying is when I worked at a lower income complex, I know this sounds crazy, but I worked at a lower income complex, there were no parking spaces and everybody would go crazy. But it was because many of the people living there had 2, 3, 4 cars. Why? Wow. Because the car was money. Owning that car was money. Having the extra little Honda, if the first car broke down, was money. You know, there are people in financial situations, if they don't have a car, they don't have any money. Like they can't get to work, the bus system, you know, real dire straight lives. Like there are homeless people, if it wasn't for the car, they'd be on the street. I mean, there's a reason I'm a big proponent of ownership. Yes. And yes, I want people to invest money in stocks and bonds and stuff, but like just the basics for security and safety. Safety. Yeah. You know, if you live in New York, you don't need no car. I mean, I get it. There's some parts you don't need no car. Even if you're in DC, you don't need a car. But people out here in Texas where they're driving 20 miles for work. Yes. Here in Florida, you need a car. Please tell them that again. I've had 2 clients move to Florida and go, I don't even have own a car. I'm like, baby, you're gonna need a car. Like I'm proud of you moving. That's great. Because waiting at the bus stop at 90 degrees outside is not cool. Well, one of my clients had to learn how to drive and they were 30. Wow. They've been in New York and DC their whole life with their parents. And then they were like, I was like, why don't you just drive from DC to Florida for your job? Yeah. You know, you're moving, just put all your stuff in your car. I don't know how to drive. What? You man, you got to learn how to drive, baby. So that's horrible. That's something. Yeah. Okay. There's some more comments though. Shanika, I'm so sorry if I say your name wrong. I really do try to read them right. I love your videos. Appreciate the knowledge you're sharing. Thank you for watching. Antonio Franklin, can I use my sister's income with my credit to apply for a mortgage for a multifamily owner-occupied unit property? Yes, you can, but here's the kicker. Here's what I'm gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna do. The same thing with husband and wife teams from the earlier question. I have friends who are husbands and wives, and even Robert Kiyosaki and his wife do this. Sometimes She has an LLC and he has an LLC, and they come together to purchase properties. Now, Dave Ramsey, of course, would recommend you be husband and wife on one LLC. That's good. I mean, I believe that. I think that's very, very useful. But brother and sister, I think it's okay for you guys to go into this if you're both going to live there. But best believe they're going to pull your credit report too. And right. I've had clients who haven't done their taxes in years. I've had clients who don't have any credit. They just work cash. And what I would tell you, Anthony, if you could give me some more information, I would probably tell you to get a couple secure cards or secure lines of credit the bank and one on a card to kind of at least show the bank that you're in the process of, you know, adding to this mortgage, so that you're not like, just, hey, I got the money. Unless you're going to put it fully in your sister's name and you guys have that type of relationship and you guys can do a contract, great. Because what happens is she'll have equity, you know, and she can go on and keep buying. But for me, the legal and the best way is honestly for you to build your credit up and get on the loan with her.
That's right. Totally agree with that.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. It's a matter of building for the future. That's the main concern. Now, I'm all in for getting in the door, and if you and your sister have that actual agreement, get in the door the best way you can. Like going back to the time thing we were talking about, don't wait 4 or 5 years to make it happen when, you know, the house can be improving in the equity at least. But you guys have that agreement and put something on paper for 2 reasons. Number one, no one can actually lie about it. And number 2, you'll actually have the means to go back and, you know, see the agreement so nobody gets amnesia.
For sure. I am a big proponent of, okay, so many people are like, oh, I don't want to work with my family, I don't want to live with my family, I don't want to do this or that. But I will definitely tell you that I think working with family is some of the fastest way to grow it.
Right.
You know, of course, be careful, but it's some of the fastest ways to grow it. Now, what I would say is with your sister, I would have a 5-year plan right now. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, we're going to buy a property every year because we're saving so much money with this one. Let's say you're both living there. We're going to buy a property every year and kind of move it forward. So Anthony gave me some more perspective. He says, I have good credit, but no income at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So Anthony, again, the key there is if you just want to put it on her, have enough income to qualify for the 4 unit, and do y'all have enough money to put down for the down payment, even if it's going to be FHA, all that good stuff. You know, do you have enough? If you can answer that, that would help us kind of give you a better answer. Even if you don't have income, Anthony, if you have, let's say you have a tax refund of $3,000. If I'm Anthony and I don't have a job, let's say something happened, I just don't have a job, I'm chilling, and I get $3,000 tax refund, this is what I would do. I'm just saying what I would do. CYA, because you're an attorney. I would go to the bank. I would go to Navy Federal. I'd go to whatever bank I had, Navy Federal, USAA, you know, Bank of America. Smaller the bank, the better. And I would go open a secure loan with $1,000. I'd take another $1,000, put it on a card, and I would take that other $1,000. If they didn't want to let me do more than one credit card or more than one loan at the same time, I'd go to a second bank. Now, why am I going to do that? Because at least with the credit score, they're going off your credit score at first. They're not going off your income. Some of those credit cards come in the mail strictly off your credit score, and if previous years you did your tax returns.
Right.
A lot of times you can do shopping cart trick, which many people know about. Other tricks you can go online and do to get that credit. So it's up to you, Anthony. That's just what I would personally do. You know, Mr. Martin, what would you do in that situation?
I mean, here's the thing. At some point, he has to start adding some type of income to his credit, because now he's eliminating the process that bankers use, the debt to income ratio. So you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by not showing income from a job. So anything would do. But like you say, you know, leveraging the credit and using those credit lines, like a lot of banks, they don't actually check your income because a lot of those processes are automated. You know, there's no one actually checking those files personally. they're just an automated system where you just, you know, put the application in, and the computer base, you know, looks at the data that you put in and approve you or you know, not qualify you for that actual process. But I would look at adding some type of income in the near future.
I mean, I would even put, like, you know, when you add the personal information when you're updating your credit report, I would even put whatever company, like I have made, say you made an LLC, Anthony's LLC. I would put that on there,
Yes.
you know, as my work information, you know, something kind of on there. You know, it just depends.
Yep.
Okay. I have more questions. So are you still good on time? I don't want to take too much time.
Good on time. I got a few more minutes.
Okay. So, because we're hitting the hour mark and I don't want to, your kids we're starving to death. I don't want to do you like that. So I got one more we're trying to squeeze in. If you guys have any more questions, listen, squeeze them in right now because we're in the like 5-minute lightning round. Okay. So passion for decor. Should I apply for business credit while working on personal credit? I'm interested in investment properties with the home I live in now being my first rental and purchasing a new construction home.
Apply for both, work on both. That way you will have options as it relates to pulling some financing when you need it, because you may not have enough with your business credit lines. You may need to use a little bit of your personal credit just to get it going. It goes back to that time thing. The beautiful thing about credit is you could actually buy time. So I would say go ahead and apply for both and build both up. It will actually help you out in the future.
Yes, I agree with what he just said. I think it's important to be working on both because sometimes you can get it done in 3 months, sometimes you can get it done in 6 months, cleaning your credit up. Secondly, what people really need to focus on in that 6-month period, if you have a business that's making money, keep showing that business is making money, right? That's the strongest and best thing you can do. Now, do I agree 9 times out of 10, if you have, I see people on YouTube, I see people in the real world, if you got $10,000 to $50,000, you can be a super YouTube star pretty quickly. You can be all kind of stuff very quickly, but that's the beauty in capital giving you that leverage, right? So with that, I always say while she's working on her credit, there's thousands of banks in the United States, and I have banks that I work with that will give people $24,000 unsecured credit cards with 550 credit scores. Now, is your interest rate the best?
No,
not always, but that's the key in making on-time payments and asking in 6 months, can I get a little bit of down increase on that interest? Can I, you know, but that's the key of having credit is you can go back and ask for interest to be decreased.
That's
same thing with your home, same thing with your cars. Shanika also said, how do I get started investing in investment properties? Shanika, that is going to be a video for another time. I don't want to squeeze his time here, but the key is figuring out your strategy and how much funding do you need, point blank period. Like I work with a lot of clients who are like, I want to buy apartment complexes. I'm like, baby, let's start here with a duplex. Let's just start with one and then we can go on.
Right.
So I don't want to hold up all this time to you guys today. Thank you guys for all your comments. I appreciate it. Remember to like the video. Remember to maybe throw a comment or two because all these live chat comments don't go on the regular time, regular side. So again, Mr. Lawrence, what is a way people can contact you? Please give all your information to our audience.
Yes, you can contact me at www.legacycreditfirm.com. You could also look me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Legacy Credit Firm. All right, and you could email me at info@legacycreditfirm.com. All right, so if you have any more questions, just forward those questions to us. We'll actually help you in the area of personal finance and also business credit.
So you guys, as always, I'll put the links below that Mr. Lawrence just mentioned. I'll also put them in the comments so you guys can see them. Hopefully he can also comment, so they'll be there too. But listen, this is Erica, Classy Client Blog. Thank you guys for your time today. Always check out Classy Client Blog. We will take some of these interviews and put them on the blog for more commentary, more context. You guys will see Mr. Martin again if he has time, if he's enjoyed this. And next time we'll talk about housing. If I'm not mistaken, that's what we said. We'll talk about housing and whatever you guys have housing question wise, prepare them for maybe a week or two from now. So, hey everybody, this is Erica, Classy Client Blog. Later, tell the audience bye, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, everybody, and you have a great day. Thank you, Erica, as well.